The first one is emotional capacity management. So think of your own capacity on a continuum, like your personal battery. When you're out of capacity, you're running out of capacity. It's when you like finish your day, you shut your computer, you're like, I cannot take one more thing today. Like,
Right.
let me go on the couch and turn on bad TV. Let me have a glass of wine. Like, let me self-soothe. I can't take one more thing. Further on that is overwhelm, panic, burnout, heart attack. It just keeps going, right? So that's
Right.
the other end of the continuum.
The
The
spectrum there.
other side is a thriving state where you're energetic, adaptable, strategic, creative, generous with time. And we know what that feels like too, when there's a pep in our step and we're excited about what we're going to do in that day and we feel confident. We have a culture and a history that surrounds us. It starts in school and it goes into work, where the way we manage it is too far on that continuum. It's an expected, like, it's a sick day. You wait till you can't do it anymore. So one thing to do is create a culture where you move that needle back, where you encourage people to take care of themselves. They don't have to wait till they're sick. They don't have to wait till they're in total overwhelm before they're
Nice.
allowed to do something for themselves. So that's number one.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. Today, we are diving into a conversation that's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about leadership, success, and emotions in business. My friend Gretchen Fox Palmer is a powerhouse in high stakes communications, emotional intelligence, and culture change. She's worked with Fortune 10 giants like Live Nation and Ticketmaster, navigating crisis communications and leading transformation at the highest levels. But what really sets her apart is her mission to bust the myth that emotions are a weakness at work, when in reality, they are a woman's greatest superpower. Gretchen is the founder of MTO Agency, where she helps executives and entrepreneurs use emotional intelligence to create high performance cultures, build trust, and elevate their impact. We'll talk about how mastering emotional intelligence helps you lead with confidence, make better decisions, and cultivate loyalty, whether in corporate settings or as an entrepreneur. And as a fellow equine assisted learning facilitator, she's also weaving the wisdom of horses into her work. Because, as we both know, horses have a way of teaching us leadership, presence, and emotional awareness in ways nothing else can. So, if you've ever felt like your emotions were getting in the way of success, today's episode is for you. Gretchen is here to show us how to turn emotional intelligence into an asset that elevates our businesses, our leadership, and our lives. Let's meet Gretchen Fox Palmer. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Gretchen. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
Yeah, so tell us where you're joining us from today.
I am in a little town called Wimberley, Texas, a cute, quaint artist town that's about 26 miles outside of Austin, Texas.
Oh, awesome. I love little towns. We live near a small town as well. We're in the foothills of Colorado. So we definitely have that small town vibe going on around us.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be living, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love cities. I've spent most of my adulthood in cities, San Francisco, LA, but I'm raising a child now and wanting to get back to my Texas roots. And we're on
Excellent.
25 acres, so I just love him running around with
Awesome.
sticks in the dirt, you know?
Totally. How old is your son?
He's 14 months.
Oh my gosh, a little
Yeah,
guy.
he's a little guy. So much
Very
fun.
cool.
And I'm
Very cool.
48, so I definitely sit down with my husband every night and like, there's a reason that 20-year-olds have kids.
Well, congratulations to you. I love that. That's a
Thank
great
you.
story. I'd love to hear some of your stories. So you were the VP of social media at Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and you really found your way into the world of working with companies in emotional intelligence. So tell us a little bit how you made that transition into that space.
Yeah, well, so actually there was a really big kind of pivotal moment. I was an executive, in the entertainment industry in Hollywood, and on paper everything was perfect. I had a great salary and a big expense account and worked with top tier celebrities and had my horse in Malibu. Just really everything was great, I thought. And I went to Burning Man in 2012, And I went just with the intention of having a spiritual insight. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any specific thing. And the entire time I kept opening my mouth and not having anything to say because nobody was talking about work. And the whole time I felt like I had nothing to say. And when I left, was so confused about the experience. And after reflecting, realized my entire identity was around work.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
can
I had,
so relate to that. When I left the corporate world 16 years ago and I came out, I was like, who am I? What, I didn't know where to even put that to. It's like, I just couldn't even answer that question.
yeah, I had no idea either. And
Yeah.
I realized my entire identity was about work. I
Hmm.
realized that I didn't know how to talk to people because there was no way for me to leverage what I would do to
Mm.
create a power dynamic so that because when people knew what my job was, they wanted to talk to me,
Sure. Sure.
and so I was used to that kind of power dynamic. And I just really recognized, like, this is not who I am, and I need to find who I am. And so I started that journey. Funny enough, I actually went to work that week. The first day I went back, in like jeans and no makeup for the first time ever. I think everybody was like, "What is happening?" And I just really started living in authenticity. And I started being more resistant about things that I didn't agree with. I started being unwilling to do things that I didn't want to do anymore. And, that's not a real good fit in a corporate culture.
No.
And,
No.
and so it didn't take me long before I was shown the door when I was not participating. I had a boss's boss say, "Well, you're being a maverick, and corporations don't like that." Um, After that, I did a digital detox,
Hmm.
and I took a week and I just wrote and did art, and I got headhunted very quickly from big jobs. And in my process, I had made this kind of coloring drawing. It had this bird that was like busting out of this heart, and it had this like downtown area it was flying away from. And I
Mm.
meditated on that, and I
Wow.
just realized this is no to corporate. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this anymore. And I just kept following my inner voice and really learning to hone in on that. I wound up, I had a really great VC friend who said, "Come meet me in San Francisco. Let me take you out for a drink and celebrate, because getting fired will be the best thing that ever happened to you. You are an entrepreneur. Don't go back in house. Go do your own thing. That's who you are."
Ah,
And he was right.
that was the journey.
And
That
that's
was
been
the
a
journey.
journey. And I've had my
Awesome.
company now for a decade.
Awesome. 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 So tell us a little bit about what your company does.
So we do leadership coaching and organizational training focused on emotional intelligence skills.
Right.
So, mostly helping to build trust in leadership and
Hmm.
also reducing workplace conflict.
Yeah.
In today's world, people are more stressed out than ever.
Yeah.
The gap between the employee experience and the executive experience is bigger than ever.
Hmm.
And companies don't know what to do about it. There's this gap and there's a lack of trust in leadership. And then because people are stressed out and we have all sorts of different cultures and political differences, all those workplace conflicts are creating problems. It's like when I did updated math on an equation that's been used for since like 2008, it's a $600 billion a year problem in America just in
Mm,
lost time from conflict.
yeah,
And it's
that's
actually
amazing.
very easy to solve. So, as we were talking before we started, one of the modalities that I use is equine-facilitated learning. So,
Right.
learning with the power of horses.
Hmm.
And I have a bunch of different modalities over time that have become my program. And I take people through just 5 EQ skills that I develop in them very quickly. And people say to me stuff like, the most transformation I see a lot is from baby boomer white men. And what I hear all the time from them is, people have told me for so long, I need to be more empathetic. I need to be more understanding. My wife tells me this, but nobody's ever told me how. And I didn't know it was this easy. And
Yeah.
people get real, they have a lot of emotion to deal with because they're like, I've been doing this wrong this whole time and it's not hard to learn. I just needed
Right.
someone to show me. So
Right.
for me, it's so satisfying to like leave people where they feel totally different about being able to be, empathetic, adaptable leaders. So
Yeah. So how did the horses come into the mix of it? I mean, as you know, I bring horses into my work, so I love that you do as well. And I think anytime that we can do that, it's so magical what the horses can bring to a learning environment, into a coaching environment. Give our listeners some insights into how you're working with the horses to work with your clients.
yeah, so I do both like private executive coaching,
Hmm.
personal coaching, and then groups. So like a corporate retreat.
Hmm.
And I take them through a series of emotional intelligence skill building exercises. And
Hmm.
a lot of what happens, there's a few things. One is that talk therapy, coaching, part of what you're dealing with before you can get to transformation is people's stories, their biases, their mindset. And when they're around an 1,100-pound animal, they automatically shift into a state of presence
Hmm.
purely out of survival.
Right.
It's dangerous to not be present with a horse. And
Right.
so, and you know that intuitively in a primal way. So people automatically make that shift. So we're already starting off from a place where they're present and not in that analytical brain, but in more an embodied state. So that's one. The other thing is that all of our electromagnetic, the field that like radiates from us has been measured in different research projects. And in one that the HeartMath Institute did with horses, it's about 5 times greater with a horse. I think
Okay.
their hearts are 3 times bigger than ours. And because they live in a herd environment, they communicate, and the leader of the horse, the leader of the herd, their energy field is what helps settle everybody else. So they
Right.
use that system to regulate their nervous system and their
Right.
emotional state. And
Right.
so we get the benefit of being around them because that happens to us too.
The
So we
mirror
also
that happens. Yeah.
we start to co-regulate with their giant nervous system, and because they're prey animals, their job is to be able to always be able to run away when they need to, but they can't expend that energy all the time. So unlike us who tend to stay in this hyper vigilant state of too much cortisone, too much stress, where we're always worried about stuff, a horse cannot stay there.
Right.
So, and we know we shouldn't. And
Right.
so, they notice a risk. And if it's then not something they need to run away from, they immediately go back to grazing.
Right.
So that regulation system helps us with our own regulation system. And then, some of the things that we do, there's self-awareness exercises. Some of the exercises that are the most gentle are the most powerful. I remember the first time I did this one during training, where you're just witnessing, no talk, no touch. You're just experiencing horse and writing down everything you notice.
Right.
And we go through a few different horses. And the stuff that people say to me, is, that horse doesn't like me. That horse doesn't want to.
Projections, right?
Yes. And, then very quickly you can work through. When I did it, I realized I wanted the horse to connect with me. And the horse was eating. And I had this whole dialogue in my head about the horse not liking me, not wanting to connect with me, my feelings about that. And after processing it with my own coach, I realized, like, first of all, I'm actually a little reserved with new people too. And it's not a judgment on them. I'm just like waiting for a relationship to build. I'm
Right.
just not
Right.
going to connect and be in someone's face right away like that. And so recognizing, that mirror of
Right.
them being the same. And then it's both, I had a 360 experience where both I recognized it wasn't personal about me, but also how my lack of willingness to connect right away impacts other people,
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
may have their feelings hurt.
There's so much wisdom that the horses can bring, and you get the dynamics of community and group together, and it's so magical to see what happens and the breakthroughs that can happen when the horses start to reflect back to a team what's the dynamics that's going on in a team, or the something that's going on with a person, like you said, shared your personal example. They can, I mean, I always say, may I always be in awe of the magic that the horses bring to that kind of environment. And when I just feel very fortunate and blessed to get to do, and I'm sure you do too, that we get to do that kind of work with the horses, because it just takes it to a whole nother level that than what you could do in a conference room.
Yeah, and
And
it's way more fun and to be outside in nature and
you
the team.
remember it, right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
remember, I mean, people will walk away with experiences like that, so embodied into the lesson that they took from
Yeah.
that session. It can be just really magical.
Well, I was going to just add one more thing, which is that one of my favorite things that happens a lot are specifically usually women who are not comfortable asserting boundaries and then
Hmm.
learning how to do it with a horse
Hmm.
and learning that the horse respecting boundaries is an example of respect and kindness,
Hmm.
and that boundaries aren't a negative. It's not about being mean to somebody. It's just about asking for your needs to be met and
Yeah.
expecting somebody else to meet your needs. And when somebody can ask a 1,100-pound animal to do that and get it done, then a 200-pound man is no more a problem, right?
Yeah.
They're now
Yeah.
like, oh, I can use my energy. I can
I
ask
know
them
how
to
to
back
walk with
up.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can actually feel that energy
Yes.
presence, with the people around them. And it can be, I mean, it's really powerful to do that. I love that. So I know that one of the things you're really passionate about is busting the myth that emotions are a weakness at work. Why do you believe emotions are actually a superpower for women in leadership?
Well, so adaptable leadership is so important in this modern world. And it
Yeah.
always has been important, but it's gotten more important than ever. And being adaptable requires self awareness and it requires empathy. And these are powerful tools that allow us to shift from domination, shift from carrot and stick, shift from transactional relationships into collaborative, inspired, connected relationships and leadership. So it's a totally different experience, and it changes from a place that people go to work to do their jobs to a place where they feel connected, a part of a team, all working towards the same goal. So
Yeah.
it's a superpower to be able to lead people in a way that they want to do the things. And it's also a superpower because those same things allow you to get change management, behavior change in people. Before I learned a lot of this stuff as a manager, I would tell people what they needed to do. I was terrible about giving feedback. And now when I do it, people say to me 100% of the time, thank you for sharing this with me. Nobody has ever explained it to me. Thank you for, teaching me what I need to do next. And so when you have people that work for you that feel that way, they're loyal.
Right.
And when it comes to business, there isn't a better, cost saver than someone that's loyal to you and wanting to do the work that you've asked them to do and rise to the occasion. So to
Right.
me, it's common sense. And then it feels good when it's in relationship,
Yeah.
and I just think that this is an area that's very cool because women have a leg up. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean it has to be that way, but women have traditionally been allowed a bigger range of emotions.
Yep.
And so we have, and as a lot of times nurturers, we've developed skills that are so easily applied in this way.
Hmm.
And I think the future is women in business and women in leadership. And I think
I
that this is a
agree.
way
Totally.
that we can use our
All day.
superpowers to create a more equitable world.
Yeah, I so agree. I mean, I think that what we're bringing to the table, I always talk about this is a new paradigm of business that women are leading. And it is our ability to be able to connect at a deeper emotional level and with that natural ability. Not to say that men can't do that because men
Right.
definitely can, but we have that nurturing quality within us that that's very natural for us. So,
And we need to stop. I was going to say, we need to stop trying to be men
yeah,
and
totally.
taking on the masculine leadership qualities and combine our strengths and abilities at work,
Body of
our
us, right?
intellect, and yes, and combine it with being empathetic, embodied, connected
Yeah,
leaders.
totally. I so agree with that. I so agree with that. So how did emotional intelligence how has it helped you as an entrepreneur to grow your business over these last 10 years?
Well, it's been interesting because it's been an iterative journey.
Oh, sure.
Well, where it's really helped the most is me running the kind of company that I want to run
Hmm.
and doing the kind of work that I want to do. So now,
Hmm.
because I'm focused on this work, my day to day is supporting people and helping them evolve. So the biggest impact for me is actually stepping into the work as a full time job and delivering that outcome. And
Yeah.
then,
And being in
close.
that relationship with clients in that
Yep.
way. I mean, this is what I was thinking through is like, it's for women entrepreneurs. Our listeners are mostly women entrepreneurs. And if they're thinking about how emotional intelligence will help them on their journey, to me, it's a deeper connection with their clients. It's a deeper relationship with their team. It is like being able to have the conversations, adding that emotional intelligence level that really changes that up.
It's also straight up all about the bottom line: productivity,
Yeah.
efficiency,
Yeah.
loss of time with workplace conflict. I will give you an example of how it's changed for me in my own management. So, for example, I used to manage a woman that I realized through my own work had a coping mechanism of avoidance. And it took me working, develop these emotional intelligence skills to recognize when people are avoidant, I get triggered. I'm a
Mm,
very direct person. I'm running a business. I like to just, let's put it on the table. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. And not everybody operates that way.
right.
And so when that person would be avoidant, I would get angry. I would try to be like forcing, to work through the thing that I wanted to do because I'm the boss. So we're going to do it this way. And I would basically then trigger that person who would go and complain about me for 1 to 2 hours on the phone with at least 5 different employees.
Oh,
Get up,
wow.
talk until one got off, hang up the phone, call the next one. So, you know how much money I was losing just because I didn't have the skill set to understand different emotional coping mechanisms that people have and how to deal with different ones. And so I call them the 25 common blind spots. We've all experienced most of them. And some of the ones we operate with a lot. Anger is a fast one for me that I always have to manage. Have you ever mad typed to anyone? Mad
Oh, mad
types.
type, where you're typing really hard on the keyboard, right?
Someone made you mad and you're going to let them have it in your email and your Slack message. So I have learned to never mad type. And the moment that I find myself going to mad type, I'm like, what is this? Let
Right.
me work through this. And so now, where, previously I would have reacted in a way that would have caused a ripple effect in time loss, lack of efficiency, lack of productivity. Instead, now I know how to handle those situations so I get the outcome that I want.
Right.
And it takes me about 20 minutes to prepare for the conversation. I set up the conversation that day, I execute through it, and the people say to me, "Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, I didn't see it that way." Blah, blah, blah. Or they tell me something that I didn't know, which happens at least half the time. At least half the time they say something to me like, "Well, but you said this one thing 2 months ago." And I'm like, "Oh, right, I did."
Yeah.
So,
It's open
if any,
conversation.
yeah, and like it creates the room for honesty. And if you can have people be honest, you can get to the nuts and bolts of what's going on and you can fix it. So these are just like
So good.
small examples,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just there's no downside. And
Yeah.
the other thing is that it improves every single one of your relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships are better with your parents, with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends. I have become the person that, random friends I haven't talked to, like, I'm really in the middle of this and I didn't know who else to call. When you have emotional capacity and resilience and skills, then you really can handle anything.
Yeah.
And when you can handle anything, you stop getting stressed about anything because
Yeah.
you have the skills to handle it.
I love it. I love it. So what are some practical ways that entrepreneurs can really apply emotional intelligence in the day-to-day operations of their business to really
So,
enhance their culture, improve their client interactions? What are some
sure.
some things that are just practical tips?
Okay, so there's 5 EQ skills that I teach. The
Mhm.
first one is emotional capacity management. So think of your own capacity on a continuum, like your personal battery. When you're out of capacity, you're running out of capacity, it's when you like finish your day, you shut your computer, you're like, I cannot take one more thing today. Like,
Right.
let me go on the couch and turn on bad TV. Let me have a glass of wine. Like, let me self-soothe. I can't take one more thing. Further on that is overwhelm, panic, burnout, heart attack. It just keeps going, right? So that's
Right.
the other end of the continuum.
The
The other,
spectrum there.
yeah, the other side is a thriving state where you're energetic, adaptable, strategic, creative, generous with time. And we know what that feels like too when there's a pep in our step and we're excited about what we're going to do in that day and we feel confident. We have a culture and a history that is surrounds us. It starts in school and it goes into work where the way we manage it is too far on that continuum. It's an expected, like, it's a sick day. You wait
Right.
till you can't do it anymore. So one thing to do is create a culture where you move that needle back, where you encourage people to take care of themselves. They don't have to wait till they're sick. They don't
Right.
have to wait till they're in total overwhelm before they're
Nice.
allowed to do something for themselves. So that's
Yeah.
number one. The second one is around self awareness.
Mhm.
So, self awareness is really understanding like what's mine and what's yours, understanding our blind spots. So, um, I teach these in a few different ways, different, like either like one big half day workshop that we go through all this stuff, or we do it in monthly group calls. But I have us look at what are some of these common blind spots. An example is like hypervigilance.
Mhm.
We think hypervigilance is a good thing because it's aligned with perfectionism. But I'll tell you what, I used to be hypervigilant and it was exhausting for my team and they never felt like they were doing good enough. So
Right.
it's demoralizing.
Right.
So part of it is just gaining
It's exhausting
self-awareness.
for you too, right?
Yes, yeah, totally exhausting for me, an
Mhm.
unhealthy dynamic. And I was able
Yeah.
to dismantle that by actually going to my team when I recognized it. And this is the tip. I literally brought my team together and I said, I recognize that I have been leading with hypervigilance. That's my own trauma exposure response, has nothing to do with this. And I am not going to run this company with perfectionism expectation anymore. We are
Yeah.
dropping it to excellence, and excellence is the bar. So reset the bar from perfection to excellence. So there's room for people to feel like they can make a mistake and it's not the end of the world.
Those are
So
both brilliant suggestions. I love both of those. I think
thank you.
that there's something that our listeners can go apply right now. And then there's 3 more and they can follow you and they can learn more from you as that comes along.
Perfect.
So the next thing I have for you is what's something that is just one of the most profound outcomes that you've witnessed when leaders embrace this emotional intelligence in their organization, in their professional and personal lives?
My favorite anecdote about that is a guy, he screams my name from the rooftop. So his name is Jim Braley. He works for a manufacturing company. He runs a warehouse and he has been doing my EQ at Work peer conversations program for 2 years now. And he tells me stories all the time. He sends me emails all the time. But my favorite stuff that he shares is stuff about how his leadership has shifted to where he's empowered his team and taught them the things that he's learned. And he's had a guy come to him and say that his relationship is better with his wife because of his manager's relationship with him. So the
Mm,
ripple effect
into
that when
families. Yeah.
we show up, it's everywhere. We don't, lose our temper with the car drive cutting us. You know what I mean? It's like it
Yeah.
impacts every single aspect of life, and it creates community and connection and the world that we want to actually live in.
Right.
So it does start with us, but that whole like just work on yourself, it starts with us. That's not given enough credit, because it's not just that it starts with us and you're by yourself. It's that it starts with you and you change everybody around you.
Yeah. I love it.
Because
I totally love it.
yeah, so
Where can people learn more about you and your work?
So business wise, LinkedIn, I'm Gretchen Fox Palmer. I have an Instagram account, Gretchen Fox Palmer as well. And I share a lot of EQ stuff there. And also my personal life, I'm pretty open socially.
Yeah.
So those are two great places to connect with me.
Excellent. And then the final question I always close with is, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with us today?
Mm, it's never too late.
Yeah.
Change can happen in an instant, and it does. And always, no matter what, hold the sacred place of possibility for other people. You don't
Mm,
have to it doesn't mean don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean, that you got to give a lot of hope to people that have not shown up over and over, but just hold that little sacred place that anyone can change at any time.
ah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Gretchen, for joining us today and sharing all your good wisdom. And I always love to meet fellow equine assisted practitioners doing good work in the world. And especially the emotional intelligence that you're bringing into the mix of all of it. It's a beautiful mixture of bringing modalities together. So congratulations on everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to share.
You bet.